Hi students, this is Manju Bhargavi. I am going to explain class 12 biology chapter 3 human reproduction. Coming to the definition of reproduction. Reproduction is a biological process to produce young ones similar to themselves. So as we know that in the reproduction we can tell that the young ones will be formed which are similar to themselves. So when it comes to here we can tell now, for example, the cow. The cow gives rise to calf. The calf and the cow, they look similar. In the same way, in case of human beings, we can tell that the young ones which are produced will be similar to their adult. That is called reproduction. Reproduction is a very important process which helps the species continuation. Humans, they belong to phylum Chordata. They belong to phylum Chordata. So as we know very well that in case of human beings, we have a spinal cord, brain and the spinal cord as well as backbone is present. Hence we come under phylum Chordata and class mammals. Human beings reproduce sexually. So we undergo sexual type of reproduction. So sexual reproduction is defined as a reproduction in which there is a fusion of gametes. Fusion of gametes will take place. So what is this gametes? Fusion of gametes will take place. The gametes, it includes sperms and ovum. The gametes are sperm and ovum. When the fusion takes place sperm and ovum, then we are going to call it as a sexual type of reproduction. They are unisexual organisms. Human beings are unisexual organisms. Uni means single. Uni means only one or single. So each individual will have only one sex organ. Only one sex organ is present. Hence they are considered as unisexual organisms. They show sexual dimorphism. As we all know very well that, so they undergo, that is we can tell male and the female organisms are present. They have different sex organs as well as hormones will be present. Hence we can tell that the male is completely different. Their physical features and the hormones present in the male is different and in the female it is different. Hence we can tell that they show sexual dimorphism. Humans show viviparous organisms. Viviparous means they give birth to young ones. They give birth to young ones. Reproductive system. So this topic is mainly based on to understand what is reproduction, how the process is going to take place. We have to know first what exactly the reproductive system is. The reproductive system is a set of interconnected and interdependent organs and the body components which take part in sexual reproduction. So now the important thing we have to know that what are the organs and what are the body components. They are connected with each other to show a sexual reproduction. So now before going to the system, we can study some of the events which comes under sexual reproduction. The first event is gametogenesis. So the gameto means it is a formation of gametes. Gametes, as I told you, they are sperm and ovum. Sperm and ovum, they are considered as gametes. The sperm is a gamete. The sperm is a gamete which is seen in case of male, and the ovum is a gamete which is produced in females. The sperm and ovum, they are haploid in nature. They are haploid in nature. So haploid means they'll have 23 chromosomes. Next step is insemination. Insemination is defined as transfer of spermatozoa from male to female genital tract. So as we know very well that the spermatozoa and the sperm both are one and the same. It is produced from the male and it has to enter into the female genital tract. It is a second event in case of reproduction process. The third one is fertilization. Fusion of male and female gametes leading to zygote is called fertilization. As I told you, the male gamete is a sperm and the female gamete is a ovum. When the sperm and the ovum fuse, it results in a single cell which consists of 46 chromosomes. It will have 46 chromosomes, is called fertilization. Next event is cleavage. Once the fertilization has taken place, once a single cell is produced, it has to undergo multiple divisions. So that divisions we are going to call it as cleavage. Division of zygote. Which divisions it is going to take place? So every time you have to remember that it undergoes mitosis division. Mitosis is defined as an equatorial division. So the zygote, which is having 46 chromosomes, this zygote will continuously divide. One cell will become two cells, two cells will give rise to four cells. So it undergoes multiple mitosis division and it results in the development of blastocyst. Further also we can tell that the cleavage will be going on taking place. So this is called as cleavage. The next event is implantation. Implantation is defined as attachment of blastocyst to the uterine wall. So blastocyst is nothing but at certain stage of cleavage, it results in the formation of a couple of cells which forms a trophoblast or which results in a chorionic villi which helps in attachment to the uterine wall. So attachment of blastocyst to the uterine wall is called implantation. The next event is gestation. Period of complete embryonic development. Once the embryo is attached to the uterus, the development will take place. The embryo will develop into young ones where tissues, organs, everything will develop. So the gestation period of humans is 280 days or 9 months. The next event is parturition. The parturition is also called as delivery. Expelling of fully formed embryo. So once the young one, that is the embryo is completely developed, it comes out of the uterus which is called as parturition. Expelling of fully formed embryo is called parturition. So all these are the events, the reproductive phases or events they can ask as definitions for 1 mark. Next we are going to study about reproductive system. So when we study about this reproductive system, it involves primary and secondary sex organs. So whether it may be a male or it may be a female, they have primary and secondary sex organs are present. We will see the difference between primary and secondary sex organs. Primary sex organs, they include gonads. The gonads means in case of male, it is testis. In case of male, the testis is considered as a gonad. In case of female, ovary is called as a gonad. So testis and ovary are called as gonads. So testis in case of male and ovary in case of female. They are considered as gonads, sex organs. Gonads means sex organs. They produce gametes. What this testis and ovary will do? They are going to produce gametes. Testis is going to produce sperm. It produces sperms, and ovary is going to produce ovum or egg. So they are considered as gametes because they are haploid in their chromosome number. Not only the gametes, they also secrete male and female hormones. So the male hormones includes testosterone. Testosterone hormone, the male hormone, and the female hormones, it includes estrogen, progesterone, etc. When it comes to the secondary sex organs, it includes reproductive duct and glands. So when we think about reproductive duct, duct is nothing but a tube, so which helps in transportation of sperm in case of male and transportation of ovum in case of female. And there are certain glands are present which helps to secrete a fluid which helps in the process of the transportation and giving nutrition for the sperms. They carry gametes to the site of fertilization and provide space for embryonic development. So secondary sex organs, they carry the gametes. So for example, we can tell that in case of male, vasa deferens is considered as a site through which it is going to help the transportation of sperm, and in case of female, fallopian tube. So it acts as a duct which helps in fertilization process, and also it provides a space for embryonic development. So uterus will help in the embryonic development. They secrete useful materials other than hormones. So when it comes to the male, we can tell that the semen is produced. Semen is produced. So it is considered as another material other than hormones. So the difference between the primary and secondary sex organs are this, and mainly we are calling this as primary. Why? Because this is very essential. Primary sex organs are essential because they are the main things which are going to produce sperms and ovum. This duct and the glands are considered as secondary. Why? Because they are going to support the process. So next we are going to study about male reproductive system. So what are the things present in male reproductive system? It consists of scrotum, a pair of testes, vasa efferentia, a pair of epididymis, a pair of ejaculatory duct, a urethra, a penis, and glands like prostate gland, seminal vesicle, Cowper's gland. These are the organs, they are present in the male reproductive system. Now we can find here, so it consists of scrotum. So when we look at the diagram, we can find here it is a diagrammatic sectional view of male pelvis showing reproductive system. So here we can find that it is a male reproductive system. So both the views are a male reproductive systems. So here if you study in this diagram, it clearly shows the inner detail. So here we can make out what all the things present. It consists of scrotum. The scrotum is the lower region where the where the testis is present. Inner to that we can find this is a scrotum. Inside the scrotum testis is located, and this is connected to vasa efferentia and vasa efferentia. Then this is epididymis. You can make out here vasa efferentia, epididymis is present. Then ejaculatory ducts, that is nothing but vasa deferens is present. Then urethra. So this is what is urethra, and completely from here to here it is considered as penis. And there are glands are present. Glands are present. The glands, it includes 3 glands are present in the male reproductive system. Seminal vesicles. One pair of seminal vesicles are present. Then prostate gland is present, which is one single. And then bulbourethral gland, a pair of bulbourethral glands are present. So here we can make out which is a primary sex organ, what are the ducts involved, and then we can tell what are the glands present. So the testis is considered as a primary sex organ. Testis is a primary sex organ, whereas rete testis, vasa efferentia, epididymis and vasa deferens, all these comes under accessory ducts. They are the duct which is going to carry the sperms. Then, as I told you, this seminal vesicle, prostate gland and bulbourethral gland, these are the 3 glands which are present in the male reproductive system. Bulbourethral gland, it is also called as Cowper's gland. Bulbourethral gland is also called as Cowper's gland. So this diagram is very important for 5 marks. So when they ask, draw a neat diagrammatic view of male reproductive system. So this diagram you have to write, and it is for 5 marks. Now we are going to study each and every part of the male reproductive system in detail. The first one is scrotum. The scrotum is a pouch of pigmented skin arising from lower abdominal wall and hanging between the legs. Its dermis contains smooth muscle fibers called dartus tunic. They have involuntary dartus muscles and spermatic fascia. So scrotum, as you all know very well that the scrotum is like this. So it is divided. It is divided into right and left scrotal sacs. It is divided into right and left scrotal sacs. Scrotum. It is a scrotum which is hanging between the legs. It is hanging between the legs. It is divided into right and the left scrotal sac by a muscular portion. This is a muscular portion, or we can say muscular partition, which is called as septum scroti. It is called as septum scroti. So the scrotum is divided into right as well as left scrotal sacs. Inside this scrotum, it has testis. Inside the scrotum, testis will be located. The testis originates in the abdominal cavity. As we all know that the testis during the 7th month of development, it descends permanently into the scrotal sacs. Initially, the testis will be above in the abdominal region. Above in the abdominal region. The testis will be above in the abdominal region. During the 7th month, embryonic development, during the 7th month, it descends into the scrotal sacs. This consists of, scrotum consists of a muscles called as Dartus muscles are present. The testis, it is originated from mesoderm. Germ layers, when we think, the testis is originated from mesoderm. This is a very important question. And then when does the testis will descend? It is in the 7th month of the development, the testis will descend into the scrotal sac. It is also very, very important. Next thing is why? Why does the testis will descend from the abdominal region to the scrotal sac? Because in the scrotal sac, 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius, the temperature will be less than the body temperature. So in the scrotum, the temperature is very, very important. It is 2 degrees to 2.5 degrees Celsius less than our body temperature. So we all know that our body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. So 2 to 2.5 degrees, it will be less in the scrotum. So this temperature is very, very important to undergo spermatogenesis, and that is why when the testis, if it descends into the scrotal sac, the spermatogenesis, that is formation of sperms, will take place, and the sperms also will be protected. If at all testis is not descending, then it leads to sterility. So another important thing here we have to study about the Dartus muscle. The Dartus muscle, it helps in regulating the temperature. It regulates the temperature. Now the scrotum is completely made up of Dartus muscle. It is having a muscle. Name of the muscle is Dartus muscle. How this muscle maintains the temperature in the scrotum is, whenever the temperature falls in a sense, if it is less than 5 degrees Celsius compared to the body temperature, then because it is a muscle, it starts contracting. When it contracts, it shrinks. When it shrinks, the complete skin, it will become thick, firm and corrugated. Means it is densely, whatever the tissues are present, they are densely packed. And that brings this complete testis close to the body. It makes the testis close to the body so that the body, because as it moves close to the body, the warmness of the body will transfer to this scrotum. Then again the temperature will rise. But when the temperature rises, if the temperature in the scrotum increase, then the scrotum becomes relaxed. We can say whatever the muscles are present here, it will relax, and as it relaxes, it moves little bit, gets expanded. When it expands, it becomes thin and flaccid and then loses the heat. So that is how the Dartus muscles present in the scrotum, it will maintain the temperature of the testis. So next we can say failure of the testis to descend. As I told you, 7th month the testis should come down. It should enter into the scrotal sac. If at all it is not descending, it results in cryptorchium. So it is very, very important question. What is cryptorchium? So cryptorchium is nothing but failure of testis to descend into the scrotum is called cryptorchium. If it is not descending, it leads to sterility. So next we can tell that each scrotum. Now as I told you, the scrotum is present in the extra-abdominal region. Means it is not present in the abdominal region. It is away from the abdominal region. It is away from the abdominal region. Now how it is connected to the abdominal region? It is connected through the inguinal canal. So now this is the abdominal region. Here we can find there is a canal called as inguinal canal. So above this is considered as a abdominal region, and this is a scrotum. This is a inguinal canal. It is an inguinal canal. Now from this, with the help of this inguinal canal, there are spermatic cord. The spermatic cord will pass. The spermatic cord will pass into it, into the scrotal sacs. The spermatic cord will pass into the scrotal sac, and then it is getting connected to the testis. It gets connected to the testis. So this is an inguinal canal. This is an inguinal canal. Inguinal canal. Inside this inguinal canal we can find spermatic cord is present. Spermatic cord is present. So from the spermatic cord, arteries, veins will be connected to the testis. With the help of inguinal canal and the spermatic cord, we can tell that testis will be connected to the abdominal wall. Tearing of this inguinal tissue. By some reason, if this inguinal canal tissues, if it tears, if it gets ruptured, so what happens? So when there is a rupture of this inguinal canal, the intestine, complete intestine will fall into the scrotum. The intestine will fall into the scrotum, and the condition is called as inguinal hernia. So if the inguinal tissue gets ruptured, the intestine will enter into the scrotal sac, and that condition is called as inguinal hernia. Next important thing you have to remember that left testis lies a bit lower than the right testis. So left testis will be always little bit lower than the right one. And this testis will be attached to this scrotal sac. The testis is attached to the scrotal sac with the help of gubernaculum. With the help of gubernaculum. It's a muscle. Gubernaculum is a muscle, or we can call it as mesorchium. So testis at the lower side, it is connected to the scrotal sac with the help of gubernaculum. At the top it is connected to the abdominal cavity with the help of inguinal canal and the spermatic cord. So next we are going to study about penis. So penis, it is a long shaft and expanded tip called glans penis. So actually it is a long expanded shaft. It will have 3 columns of spongy tissue. So there are 2 dorsal corpora cavernosa is present and ventral corpus spongiosum will be present. So as we consider the penis, we can say that it is long, as well as we can find that it is made up of a spongy tissues. There are three tissues are present. Two of them are present on the dorsal side called as corpora cavernosa, and one is present called as one ventral one is called as corpus spongiosum. So this three spongy tissues helps the penis to erect during the intercourse. So near the tip of the penis, the corpus spongiosum is enlarged to form a soft and highly sensitive glans penis. At the tip region, we can say that it is having a swollen structure, and this swollen structure is called as glans penis. It is called as glans penis. And then it will be surrounded, this glans penis is surrounded by a loose skin. It is surrounded by a loose skin which we call as a prepuce or foreskin. It is called as prepuce, or it is called as a foreskin. So it is a penis is considered as an erectile copulatory organ which helps in passage of both urine and the sperm. But both the sperm and the urine do not pass together. Next we can say that the erection of penis is controlled by autonomic nervous system. It occurs due to increase of blood supply. So when the signal is passed, then the blood flows into the penis. Because of that, the arteries will start enlarging. As the artery starts enlarging, more and more blood flows into it. The hardening of the penis takes place, which results in the muscles, and during which the muscles will get relaxed. So removal of prepuce by surgery is called circumcision. So you might have heard that in case of Muslims tradition, they are going to cut the tip region of the penis. So the surgical removal of this prepuce or foreskin is called as circumcision. So next we are going to study about internal genital organs. So when we think about internal genital organs, the testis is a gonad, the male gonad, and it is a primary sex organ. So a pair of oval pinkish sex organs of size 4 to 5 centimeters in length, 3 centimeters in thickness, and 2.5 centimeters in width. Each testis size is this. A pair of testes are present. A testis is oval in shape, pinkish in color, and the size is 4 to 5 centimeters in length, 3 centimeters thickness, and 2.5 centimeters in width. So as we have already discussed that it is suspended in position by a spermatic cord. Now we are going to study about what are the outer coverings of the testis. The testis is covered by, so internally we are studying now, each testis is covered outer by a tunica vaginalis and tunica vasculosa, which is present in the center, and tunica albuginea. So it is each testis is having three coverings are present. The outermost is called as tunica vaginalis, and then inner to that we can find it consists of tunica vasculosa. This tunica vasculosa is a connective tissue, and then inner to it you can find It consists of tunica albuginea. So these are the three protective coverings of this testis. So each testicular lobule we can find here has this testis is having these three coverings. What actually it will do? Of course, coming to here, the outer is called as tunica vaginalis. It is considered as it gives protection. Next one is tunica vasculosa. It is having a connective tissues, that is nothing but blood. Next thing we can tell the tunica albuginea. This tunica albuginea is called, means it results in inward growth. The tunica albuginea, it is not exactly covering, it moves interiorly. I'll just draw it again. So now this is a tunica vaginalis, tunica vasculosa and tunica albuginea. This tunica albuginea, it is an inner growth. It is having ingrowth. It is not straight. You can find here. So this itself is nothing but the testis. So it is having a inner growth. Each testicular lobule contains, now we can find that this tunica albuginea, this is a tunica albuginea, it is dividing the testis into 250 compartments. So here we can find that this tunica albuginea is dividing like this. This is called as septa. It is called as septa. Now, this is dividing. Of course, this is nothing but the testis. It was like this. So, it is dividing the testis into many compartments. You can find that each testis is divided into 250 compartments. So, it has divided into 250 compartments due to the inward growth of tunica albuginea. So now each testicular lobule, of course, we can find that it contains. So each lobule will contain. So now this is considered as one lobule, second lobule, third lobule, fourth lobule, like that. You are having 250 lobules. Each testicular lobule will contain 1 to 3 highly coiled seminiferous tubules. So you can find here each one will have a seminiferous tubule. So here it is having a tube. It is having either 2 or 3 tubes will be present. So next slide we will have a diagram. I'll show you. So it is having either 2 or 3 highly coiled structures will be present, which is called as seminiferous tubules. So this is called as seminiferous tubule, seminiferous tubules, and this is a place where the sperms are produced. The production of sperms takes place in seminiferous tubule. So now here they can ask you many questions here. Which are the three layers or the three coverings of the testis? It is outer tunica vaginalis, tunica vasculosa and tunica albuginea. Which layer or which covering is going to divide the testis, means it is nothing but albuginea is dividing into 250 compartments. In each compartment we can find that 2 or 3 seminiferous tubules will be present. So the seminiferous tubules are the place where the sperms are produced. Now the question here is, then how many seminiferous tubules are present in each testis? So there are 250 compartments are present in each testis, we have told. And then each compartment consider has 3 seminiferous tubules are present. It may 1, 2 or 3, but in majority of the male it is 3 seminiferous tubules are present. Hence we are considering it as a 3. So 250 into 3 is nothing but 750 seminiferous tubules are present in each testis. So now the ends of seminiferous tubules will converge and form a short tubule called tubuli recti. So all these tubules, it will just join together at the tip region. We are going to call it as tubuli recti, which opens into a network of wider irregular tubule called rete testis. So this will open into rete testis. Rete testis fuse to form 10 to 20 efferent ducts called vasa efferentia, which joins epididymis. So again, this is one more question. Rete testis form how many vasa efferentia? Means ducts to join vasa efferentia means it is 10 to 20 efferent ducts it is going to produce to join vasa efferentia. Each seminiferous tubule is lined by, when we think about the single seminiferous tubule, we can tell that it is having a germinal epithelium cells are present, and then it is having a sperm mother cells, and it consists of Sertoli cells or nurse cells. This spermatic or the sperm mother cells will undergo mitotic division to produce spermatogonia into the lumen, which grows into primary spermatocyte, which undergoes meiosis division to produce secondary spermatocytes and then spermatids, which later form spermatozoa. This we are going to understand by seeing the diagram. So once we look at the diagram, we can easily understand this. So as I told you, now LS of human testis, we have discussed the 3 layers. Now coming to here, we can study that tunica vaginalis, tunica vasculosa. You can find here all the layers. Tunica albuginea. So these are the 3 covering protective layers. Of course, one will help in giving protection. The other one will have a connective tissues. And then the albuginea, which divide the testis into 250 compartments. So you can find here clearly. So this albuginea, so it is having a inner growth like this. So this we are going to call it as septo of testis. Inside this you can find seminiferous tubules are present. So 1, 2 or 3 seminiferous tubules will be present. Each single one you are calling it as a testicular lobule. So 250 testicular lobules will be present. Now seminiferous tubules are responsible for production of sperms. So these are all the seminiferous tubules. The sperms are produced in these regions. Once the sperms are produced, those sperms will enter into this rete testis. So this is what is rete testis. This is a rete testis. The sperms will pass to the rete testis. From rete testis, we can find here vasa efferentia. These are called as vasa efferentia. There will be 10 to 20 vasa efferentia are present. From vasa efferentia, the sperms will enter into this part which is called as epididymis. From here to here, it is considered as epididymis. From epididymis, the sperms will enter into vasa deferens. So I think by this time you know the track of how the sperms are going to move. So the sperms are produced in seminal tubules. The sperms are produced in seminal tubules. From seminal tubules, the sperms from seminal tubule, it enters into rete testis. It enters into rete testis. From rete testis, it enters into vasa efferentia. Then from vasa efferentia, it enters into epididymis. From epididymis, it enters into vasa deferens. So from vasa deferens, further we are going to study how the sperms are going to move into the urethra and then how it passes into the penis. So now we are going to study about TS of seminiferous tubule. So as till now we have discussed that the testis is present, so it is having many lobules, 250 compartments are present we have told, and then inside these compartments we have studied that it consists of seminiferous tubules. It consists of seminiferous tubules are present we have told. So we have considered it has 3 seminiferous tubules will be present in each and every compartment we have discussed. Now we are studying the TS of this seminiferous tubule. So this is, imagine now this is one seminiferous tubule. If you cut this seminiferous tubule TS, transverse section, and if you see what all the things present here, you are going to find all these things will be present in the seminiferous tubule. So now coming to this seminiferous tubule, the transverse section of seminiferous tubule, they'll ask you for 3 marks. The diagram is very important for 3 marks. So now this seminiferous tubule, the outermost region of the seminiferous tubule, it consists of germinal epithelium. The outermost region is called as germinal epithelium. So here we can find this layer is called as germinal epithelium. So this germinal epithelium contains a spermatogonium. You can find here spermatogonium is present. So as we have studied that seminiferous tubule is a place where the spermatogenesis, that is formation of sperms, will take place. So now we are considering here, so this is a lobule where we can find there is a germinal epithelium cells are present. They are interrupted by a Sertoli cells. So germinal epithelium cells are present. These germinal epithelium cells, in between we can find a pyramid-like structure which is called as Sertoli cells. So now this germinal epithelium cells, whatever cells present here, we can tell them as a spermatogonia, means they undergo mitotic division. These germinal epithelium cells, they undergo mitosis division and then they are going to produce a cells. Once they undergo a mitosis division, they undergo the cells. These cells are called as spermatogonia. These cells are called as spermatogonia. These spermatogonia cells, again they undergo a division to form primary spermatocytes. They give rise to primary spermatocytes. Again they undergo a division to form a secondary spermatocyte, and then we can find spermatids and the sperms will be present. I repeat, of course we are going to study this under spermatogenesis. We are going to study in detail. At present you remember what all the things present inside the seminiferous tubule. Inside the seminiferous tubule, we can find that it consists of germinal epithelium cells are present, the outermost layer. It has interrupted, means in between we can find there are Sertoli cells are present. These Sertoli cells, they give nourishment, and then above this germinal epithelium there is a spermatogonia cells. Then above that you can find primary spermatocytes are there. Then secondary spermatocytes are there. Later spermatids are there. And here we can find sperms are present. So in between these cells, in between these, we can find that it consists of a couple of or a group of cells are present. They are called as Leydig cells. So these cells are responsible for the production of hormones, androgens, male hormones are produced by Leydig cells. Sertoli cells will give nourishment or nutrition, food for the sperms. So Sertoli cells will give nourishment for the sperms. Hence they are also called as nurse cells. And these cells, spermatogonial cells, they undergo division, mitotic and meiotic division it will take place, and then it gives rise to sperms. So as I told you, the importance of Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells, 2 marks they will give you. So as you have already studied, they are present in between. And now Sertoli cells, they provide nourishment to the developing spermatozoa. It secretes androgen binding protein, helps in spermatogenesis, means formation of sperm. Spermatogenesis is nothing but formation of sperms. Next we can tell it secretes inhibin protein. So it secretes a inhibin protein which suppress FSH secretion and plays a role in regulation of spermatogenesis and spermiogenesis. So as we can find here, Sertoli cells will have, it will produce proteins. The proteins includes here the androgen binding protein. Of course it helps in formation of sperms. And inhibin protein. Inhibin, the name itself is telling inhibit. It suppress FSH secretion, follicle stimulating hormone secretion. So it suppresses the follicle stimulation hormone so that the sperm production will stop. So it plays a very important role in regulation of spermatogenesis and of course in spermiogenesis. Spermiogenesis is transformation of spermatids into sperms. So we can find that the spermatid will be non-motile. So this non-motile spermatid will change to a motile, and of course structure will change. A motile sperm is developed, which is called as spermiogenesis. We later study what all the changes takes place for conversion of spermatid into spermatid into sperms. So all these are controlled by this inhibin. Next we can study about what is the function of this Leydig cells? So Leydig cells, they are also called as interstitial cells. So they are group of polygonal cells as we have studied here, as we have seen here. So these are the Leydig cells, these are the Sertoli cells, don't forget. So you can find here the Sertoli cells are sperms are binding to the Sertoli cells because it gives nutrition, it helps in spermatogenesis, it helps the spermatids. You can find here, these are the spermatids which has changed into sperms later. So now we are going to study about what is the function of this Leydig cells. So Leydig cells, you can find they are present in between. So this Leydig cells are a small group of polygonal cells which are present between the seminiferous tubules. So they secrete androgens. As I told you, they secrete androgens, are also called as testosterone hormone, into the blood, which helps in spermatogenesis. And of course, it also helps in secondary sexual characteristic features. Secondary sexual characteristic features. Secondary sexual characters means the changes, physical changes in the male. So it may lead to the appearance of mustache and the muscles. Muscles will develop, the pitch of the voice will increase, and then the shoulders will become broader. All these are the physical changes which are seen in case of a male. So it is taking place with the help of hormone called as testosterone hormone. So next we are going to study about vasa efferentia. So as from the beginning, as what we have studied is the sperms are produced in seminiferous tubule, and now we have studied what exactly is present in the seminiferous tubule. We have studied that seminiferous tubule contains germinal epithelium cells, Sertoli cells and Leydig cells. So we have discussed about it. Next, once the sperms are produced, of course the process how the sperms are going to produce we are going to study later. Now imagine that now the sperms are produced. How these sperms are passed, to which region it is passed, how it is transferred, we are going to study. The next part is nothing but vasa efferentia. So from rete testis. So as I told you earlier that so the sperms are passed from the seminiferous tubule into the rete testis. So into the rete testis, the first slide we have studied, seminiferous tubules will be there. It will produce the sperms and it will reach to rete testis. This is called as rete testis. All sperms will enter into the rete testis. So from rete testis, there are 10 to 20 vasa efferentia, tube-like structures are present. These are called as vasa efferentia. So in some textbook they have given 10 to 20. In some textbook they have given it as 15 to 20. So from rete testis, 15 to 20 fine convoluted ducts will be rising, which helps the sperms to transform from vasa efferentia. The sperms will enter into epididymis. It enters into this region which is called as epididymis. So next thing is epididymis. So epididymis is a long tube, greatly coiled, and form an elongated flattened body attached to the hinge surface of the testis. So it is a long and coiled structure. So please remember that testis and epididymis together is called as testicles. So the testis, when you find the diagram of the testis, you will see like this a structure like this. So this is called as epididymis. So of course rete testis, vasa Efferentia cannot be seen when you see on the surface. So from the surface, if you see, we can find that the testis will be present. Upon that, there is a epididymis. Testis and epididymis together, it is called as testicles. The epididymis, it is having three regions. Epididymis consists of three regions. So now, this is a testis. Epididymis. The upper wider part, it is called as head or it is called as caput region. Three regions are present in the epididymis: caput or upper head region, and the middle narrow body or it is called as corpus. It is called as body or corpus, and lower tail or it is called as cauda. Tail or it is called as cauda. These are the three parts of epididymis. The head part of the epididymis, it will receive the sperms from the vasa efferentia, and this is a place where the sperms will undergo physiological maturation. So the maturity of the sperms, motility of the sperms, fertilizing capability of the sperms will increase in the head region of the epididymis. Then, so here maturity, fertility, as well as we can say that fertilization, maturation and motility has it increased. So has when the sperms comes down, that is a cauda region, the sperms can be stored for a short period. So cauda is a place where the sperms can be stored for some time. So that is the spermatozoa stored here for short period, we can tell few hours to few days, the sperms can be stored in this cauda region of the epididymis, and then the spermatozoa is released, or if ejaculated it enters into the vasa deferens, or the sperms will be reabsorbed. See, from this it enters into the vasa deferens. If it is ejaculated, okay, or else it will get reabsorbed in vasa deferens. So in this, what you have studied is epididymis is having three regions. So complete maturity, fertility and motility is taking place in the head region of the epididymis. And cauda region of the epididymis is a place where the sperms can be stored for few hours or few days. Then from cauda region, the sperms moves into vasa differentia. So now coming to this vasa differentia, it is around 40 centimeters long and it is slightly coiled and then becomes straight and passes over the urinary bladder. It joins the ducts of seminal vesicle to form an ejaculatory duct. So when this vasa deferens joins the seminal vesicle, we are calling it as an ejaculatory duct. Near its ends, it enlarges to form a middle, like little bit swollen part called as ampulla, which is helpful for storage of sperms. So before starting this ejaculatory duct, I just move to the diagram, whatever we have studied before. So as we have studied here, the passage of the sperms you have understood. This is a region where the sperms are produced. It enters into rete testis. From rete testis, it enters into vasa efferentia. From there, it is a epididymis. From here, it is a vasa deferens. So, the sperms are entering into vasa deferens. So in vasa deferens, from vasa deferens it has to move to the urethra. Through penis it has to come out. If not, in vasa deferens, the sperms will get reabsorbed. See, as I told you here, so now you can clearly understand the process as it has transferred here. The sperms are produced here, and then this is a vasa deferens. So from vasa deferens you can find here it is moving. At this part it has swollen. Okay, at this part it is swollen little bit. This is called as ampulla region of the vasa deferens. This is a place where the sperms can be stored. This is a place where the sperms can be stored for some time. So where the sperms are stored means it is in epididymis, in the cauda region of the epididymis, and in the vasa deferens the sperms can be stored for some time. And then so this will be moving into this urethra as it moves, as the sperms moves in this region. So this is a seminal vesicle. The seminal vesicle is going to produce a fluid that also will join here. So the tubes will be connected here together. We are calling it as a ejaculatory duct. It is called as a ejaculatory duct. So that is what is vasa deferentia. As I told you, it was very long and it passes over the urinary bladder, and then of course it joins with the duct of seminal vesicle to form a ejaculatory duct. Next we are going to study accessory ducts, and then we are going to study about here. Of course we are talking about this accessory ducts only. Ejaculatory duct, has now itself I have shown you the diagram. There the short, there it will be very short, 2 centimeters straight muscular tubes. They are formed by the union of, please remember this, it is formed, ejaculatory duct is formed by the union of vasa deferens and the duct of seminal vesicle, where ejaculate is formed by mixing of the sperms with the secretion of seminal vesicle. Seminal vesicle is a gland which is going to produce a fluid. So as the sperms are coming from the vasa deferens, so it gets mixed with this fluid which is secreted by the seminal vesicle. The next part is nothing but the urethra. The urethra originates from the urinary bladder and it extends through the penis. So in the diagram you have already studied that the penis is present. In the center we can find that it is a urethra is present. So this is complete part is nothing but the penis. So this part is nothing but the urethra. Urethra. So urethra originates. So it comes from the urinary bladder and it extends through the penis. And through the external, it ends with the through the external opening which is called as urethral meatus. The opening is called as urethral meatus. It is a urinary duct because it carries urine and spermatozoa. It receives the secretion of, now coming to this urethra, it also receives the secretion of prostate and the Cowper's gland secretions. So it has, so because it is having all these secretions or joining together, the urethra is divided into 3 regions. Prostatic urethra, it's surrounded by the prostate, wherever the prostate gland is present. So wherever the prostate gland is present at this region, you are going to call it as a prostatic urethra. and membranous urethra, and then the distal penial urethra passes through the penis. So it has a two splinters of striated muscles around its membranous part. So they have the muscles, this urethra has some muscles which helps in the process of releasing of urine or sperms. So of course about the penis we have discussed. It is a male erectile copulatory organ. It is a male erectile copulatory organ which passes out urine and the sperms. It has a long shaft and expanded tip called as glans penis, which is covered by a loose skin which is called as prepuce or foreskin. And the foreskin, when it is removed surgically, it is called as circumcision. In the next class, I'll continue with male accessory sex glands.